Hi, this is Nancy again. Wednesday, movie day, and I'm here today to talk about the chapter on ethics, journalistic ethics. And this chapter, although it's entitled Ethics, is not so much a catalog of and listing of ethical principles, such as those found in the Society of Professional Journals Code of Ethics. A marvelous document, by the way, really well crafted. But it's more of an answer to that part of the public that often accuses journalists of being unethical, and to those of us who don't accuse them, but certainly often wonder about some of the things that journalists do. And unfortunately, the occasional journalist who is found out that and is fired adds credence to this notion that sometimes journalists are unethical. And we have to think about the latest story, I guess, was the ABC newscaster Brian Williams, who found to be lying about his part in the Iraq war, the helicopter flying. And journalism does have a problem because, unlike many professions, there are few legal restraints. And there's a paragraph in the text that I just wanted to read that I thought described the situation pretty well. Journalists too often and too easily justify all their actions by citing the First Amendment. Because of the wide range of the First Amendment and the relatively few legal restraints on journalism, journalists need to discuss proper conduct, perhaps more than members of any other profession. At the famous Commission on Freedom of the Press, concluded in 1947, unless journalists set their own limits on what is acceptable and responsible, government will eventually and inevitably do it for them. I think that's telling. So let's see. In order to ensure ethical behavior, the chapter goes on to describe certain situations where the ethical standards and behavior of the journalists play a part. And among those things it talks about are consequences of the story. Was anyone hurt? Their reputation hurt? Was the outcome favorable? Was there a conflict of interest involved anywhere? Were there financial concerns? For instance, did advertising money play a part? Did money actually exchange hands? Did the reporter pay for the story, or did he pay informers or witnesses or anything like that? Was there deceit in gathering the information? And certainly among other ethical lapses, invasion of privacy. And I thought on that particular subject there was certainly an interesting story on the front pages of all the newspapers this week, including both the New York Times and the Washington Post. The headline read, Hulk Hogan awarded $115 million in privacy suit against Gawker. And we all remember Hulk Hogan and his bandana around his head, and he broke down in tears and sobbed when Gawker, which is an online news organization best known for its salacious stories about celebrities, was actually found guilty of invasion of privacy when it published a sex tape of Mr. Bolia, his real name. He had repeatedly asked the organization to take down the video. It probably would have been all right if they had simply mentioned that there was a sex tape, but they actually put the sex tape itself on their online website. But he had asked repeatedly for it to be removed, and as expected, Mr. Gawker's lawyers, Gawker, the organization, their lawyers, of course, argued their First Amendment rights, which was to be expected. And in many ways, this was rather an unexpected outcome because Hulk Hogan is a celebrity, and even the SPJ Code of Ethics, in its invasion of privacy clause, notes that private people have a greater right to control information about themselves than public figures. So that was an interesting little twist. And the Gawker team was reported to have said that the verdict represented a statement. No, excuse me, I've got that wrong. Hulk Hogan's team was reported to have said the verdict represented a statement as to the public's disgust with the invasion of privacy disguised as journalism. And so in the end, invasion of privacy actually trumped the First Amendment, and the CEO of Gawker said, "Your verdict will send a chill down the spine of writers, producers, and publishers throughout the country." And I'm guessing that the story made the front pages of all these newspapers. It was not so much that they cared about Hulk Hogan as the implication for their own organization, their newspapers, their reporters, and its stories. So I thought that was a very interesting chapter. I think this whole issue of ethics in journalism is particularly interesting, and it gives us a chance to look at each story we read with a more discerning eye. So, okay, see you next week. Bye.